All right, so in coming and discussing ideas about how to save energy around the office, the first thing we really looked at were the vending machines. There's 5 here. They're located on the second floor, and there's 8 at the North State building. So what we were thinking about doing is, if you de-lamps all of the machines, you could save per machine $100 a year. And there's one here in particular on the second floor that in the back corner that's a refrigerated machine that it doesn't seem that anyone ever uses it. So our rationale is, why not just get rid of it, saving in that instance $225 per year just off that machine alone. And looking at their total savings of $1,400 to $1,500 a year, just instant, no cost, no investment, instant savings in that area. Another instance, this one useful for the home as well, is lowering the temperature on your hot water heater, which also instantly produces savings. An optimal temperature that we looked at was 120 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll look at that in a second. Another thing is to repair water leaks. Being mindful of how much water that you're using to take a shower, not taking real long hot showers, just by demand. It doesn't hurt every now and then to relax and all that, but for the most part, be a little bit more mindful of that. Next slide. As you can see by this graphic, setting your thermostat temperature lower, in this case from 140 degrees Fahrenheit to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, will actually save for the standard hot water heaters, about 20% each per year. That's annual savings just off your hot water heater, and then for a tankless, 25%. Now, problems with a standard water heater, such as it's constantly on, it never goes off, it's always heating water. It's not by demand, and so your demand does not necessarily equal supply. And they only have a lifespan of about 10 to 15 years. So if you're looking at future purchase, perhaps a tankless water heater. And pros of that would be such as they're 22% more efficient on average. It's unlimited hot water because it's not just filling up a tank, heating that, and then giving that to you. It's on demand. There's a 20-year lifespan typically that you see out of them. It reduces a lot of wastewater, such in the home, having to flush the cold out of the pipe or something to heat the water up. Just real by demand, but some cons as well there, such as they're more expensive. I think they run up to about $2,000 some instances, but so there's a longer payoff period there, but it is there. And that's the important thing about it, I feel, is that eventually you will be seeing your savings in it. Another thing is that once a year probably you'll want to have the pipes flushed out just to get rid of the debris deposits. A lot of standard tanks, you have to do that with those too, but a lot of them are self-cleaning. But in case of high calcium deposits, or hard water, you may need a water softener. Next one. Also looked at smart strips as an idea about putting both in workstations and in common areas, copy rooms, and such like that. And with those, what you get, this upper graph, is the left part of it is your usage. It's when your appliances are in use. And then you see to the right, that lower graph, that's in standby mode. And so what you see below that is another graph. You have usage right there, and then completely off right there on that one below it. Next slide. And what that amounts to, just on that one station, is about $8.20 per year. Now, usually you can get smart strips about 10, 15, 20 bucks. Some more expensive, maybe about 40, more outlets and such. But that's saving about $8.20 per year. So there's a higher, there's a payoff period, 3 or 4 years, some instances. So, but it is there, and then down the line, 10 years down the road, how much money did you save since then? Next slide. Now, being able to properly implement a smart strip, I think it's still real user related is still depending on your habits. So as I think your biggest savings will be. So we were looking at implementing energy audits, to keep the staff mindful. And for this project, we actually separated out into energy teams to work on these presentations that you've seen. And I was thinking, maybe something like that to go around and do random audits from time to time and make sure that people are, not forgetting to turn their stations off, and getting reports from that, analyzing those reports, analyzing if there's a problem area or something, getting feedback from your staff, suggestions, things of that nature. And then when you have a staff meeting, maybe working these reports into that meeting as well, some awareness workshops, something along those lines. All right, and just for an example, EPD has been doing energy audits, and going back to November, you can see that 88.7% were turned off at the time, but now, in this past month, it was 97.1%. And you look at certain devices like monitors. In November, 21 monitors were left on. People not really thinking about it. In May, only 4. So, a couple of them were forgotten, but for the most part, it's really been improving, and it just shows that it's a great way to keep people kind of mindful of their situation, what they're doing, and all that. And also, 3 branches were completely turned off, and now this past month, 10 branches. And before that, a little bit even more. And so again, a way to implement the smart strips is really to identify problem areas. If you keep having an area where somebody's leaving monitors on or something like that, you give them a smart strip, which are computer controlled, basically. You can set your own settings for it, and when you turn the computer off, it shuts all the ancillary devices off as well. They're attached to that smart strip. And running cost, payoff analysis would be a great way to determine if there's really any value in that, sort of a good idea. And also, again, smart strips in common areas. Who's responsible for turning on printers and copiers and shredders and all that? Just they're not using them, and if they're on, they're basically an energy drain. So that's basically it for me. Thank you.
Tom, I believe you're our representative from Geology, is that correct?
That's right.
All right, next we have the Office of Geology.
Yeah, we don't have a thing, they just had me, everyone else is going out, and they drop this on me. With a couple of days notice, so it's a little crabby, but it'll be this. Let's see, energy saving ideas, right? First slide there. Primarily saving energy. Guys, saving energy, they got new kind of light now, you get an idea. Yeah, one of the first things we did, what we don't want when we're saving energy, go to the second slide, we don't want energy Nazis around, what's going to do, bossing us around, and that just doesn't breed for cooperation. And so several of my people, they send in suggestions, and some of them are good, most of them are repeats, and some of them are good, and then of course us being scientists and engineers, there's strange little things going on. One guy suggested several times, exercise room where you generate electricity and use the energy from our exercising machine. But it's really not very practical thing to do there. But you're going to run off at 12 volts or whatever. Now you're going to score and all that. So that's really not worth the effort. Now you go to the next slide. And then suggested, you know, have these big fans in your meeting rooms or whatever. You catch the hot air from the that can be used to run little generators or whatever. We go to the next slide. And then there's a whole bunch of other ideas. Some of them are sort of practical, most of them are impractical. You know, put awnings around all the windows on the buildings there, keep the sun out, and won't let the heat build up inside the offices, and that's not really all that good either, as you can see. The solar panels on the roof, and then the windmills, but that's not really cost effective. You're going to run, you're going to have to have all kinds of stuff, inverters and all that stuff to change the power, to with the power. So let's go on to the next slide. We go to more practical things. We can use our windows. We don't need to turn the lights on in our offices most of the time. We just let the sun shine in, or just a little natural light. And arrange your office a little bit, you know, to take maximum use of the light. Most of your offices, you don't need to have your overhead lights on. And the same thing will go for certain lobby areas with big windows. Just keep the overheads off, overhead lights off, and get plenty of light. Next slide. And this is a very popular idea. Everyone suggested that is you have these motion sensor switches. Some just suggested for the bathrooms or closets, but actually they'll work in any room. And I don't mean necessarily motion detectors, because if you've ever had one of those switches, you know, every 5 minutes or so you got to do this or whatever. Otherwise you find yourself sitting in the dark. So they do have infrared versions that'll detect the person's inside the room, so you don't have to worry about if you're too still for too long, the light's going out on you. And the next slide. Another thing is, you can keep your overhead lights off a lot of times, and really all you need is some office desk lights. And it's one little light bulb in there, and it's energy efficient, of course, and that will let us do most of our work at the desk without really inconveniencing us. The light's probably better anyway. And then you go to the next slide. And finally, this is sort of like an outgrowth of I didn't have time, or was not really sure about the home. Home energy savings for my instructions, although I could have included some of that. Too late nowadays because the building's already built, but one of my big things has been over the years was studying 1840s, 1860s technologies and see how people kept cool back then. And most of it was basically architecture, where they had the building specially designed to stay cool. And that unified with modern technology would have considerable energy savings. And one element that they used, which could have some applications today, is like we've got these large empty lots next to, especially our 700 building. And these lots, you can grow trees in there, plant up with trees, and this is one big source of cool breezes that they used back in the olden times. They'd plant these trees in these large yards, and then the wind would blow through, it would cool down the air, and that's what went into the houses. And of course, it's not going to do all that good with the modern building, but it will do some. You'll have the whole area cool, your air intakes will be cool, sucking in cooler air, and a lot more pleasant for people who are walking outside if we have a lot of trees and large